The torso in the suitcase. I work as a cashier at a chain gas station 5 nights a week. Directly across the street is an old cemetery, the kind no one visits after dark. On the night of March 19th, during my break, my coworker and I noticed police cars starting to gather at the gates. 1 or 2 at first, then more. By the time my shift ended, 10 cruisers were parked along the road. As I was getting ready to leave, a police officer came into the store. He asked how far back our security footage went and what the cameras could see. He said he needed access to at least 2 months' worth. When I asked what he was looking for, he wouldn't say. The next day, I spoke with a cop I know well. He's a regular at the gas station and someone I've gotten to know over time. He told me officers had responded to a 911 call about a suspicious item found near the cemetery. Someone walking their dog had passed by it for a few weeks and thought it looked out of place. At first, police thought it might be spoiled meat, some kind of dumped trash or animal remains. But when they opened the suitcase, they learned the horrible truth. It was a human female torso that had been wrapped in a black trash bag. The OCME transported the remains to the medical examiner in Farmington, CT. Speculation took off almost immediately. Online, people tried to piece together the story, some even connecting the murder to other bodies found across the state. Rumors of a serial killer started making the rounds, first on local news outlets, then spreading like wildfire through Facebook groups and community pages. Me, being the nosy guy the first time, started asking around. A few of our regulars wait at the bus stop near the cemetery every day, so I figured if anyone had seen something, it'd be them. One customer told me the suitcase had been sitting there right next to a public garbage can for at least a month. At this point, I couldn't help but worry if this really was the work of a serial killer. It could very well be someone I'd run up every day without even knowing it. The entire community was on edge. People were afraid to leave their homes, and the flow of information had nearly stopped. That is, until April 18th, when police suddenly shut down an entire street less than a mile from where I worked. For 16 hours, officers in hazmat suits came and went from an apartment, carrying out bags of evidence. But when asked what they had found, they refused to comment. Update 1. After the discovery of the torso, detectives met with a forensic anthropologist who guessed the victim was a woman between 45 and 65. And believed the woman had Turner syndrome, a condition that affects growth and reproductive development. That detail got released to the public shortly after, and by April 11th, a tip line was up and running. That's when people started calling in. One woman told police she thought the victim might be her sister, 58-year-old Suzanne Werser. She hadn't heard from her since early January, and not getting a call from her on her birthday was out of character for her. A day later, another family member called with the same suspicion. They said they hadn't seen or heard from Suzanne since before Christmas. Detectives started digging into records. The last known contact with her directly was in October 2024, when police did a welfare check. She was fine then. In December, another wellness call was placed to the house, this time for her 68-year-old roommate Donald Koffel, who had been recently diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. He was taken to the hospital. That's the last time anyone saw them both at the same address. When this info came out, it honestly blew my mind. I had interacted with both of them multiple times. Suzanne got banned for constantly panhandling outside the store. She even threatened to spit on me once. Koffel was actually my friend's dad's cousin. No surprise here, but he ended up banned too after threatening my coworker when she asked for his ID. It's a state law to ID anyone for tobacco regardless of age in the state of Connecticut. More information came forward when Nicholas Zeman, who would occasionally provide transportation for Koffel, went to police after he saw news reports about the investigation on Allen Street in the cemetery. He claimed that the reason for the brutal murder was because Suzanne allegedly stole $200 worth of crack cocaine. Apparently Koffel had mentioned this to Nicholas around December of 2024. He had a rough odor to him. It almost smelled sweet at first, but then it got worse and worse, Zeman said. He said, "I don't know if I told you this, we got in a really big argument. She's been accusing me of theft, but I think she's been stealing from me. And she's gone from that apartment now. She won't be coming back. And I just wanted him out of my car. It's gut-wrenching. It is gut-wrenching," Zeman said. He told me he was having problems with that lady and made some concerning remarks about how he could make her disappear, and if he did, They wouldn't come looking for him as a suspect. I did assist him loading the luggage into my vehicle. The details in the press reports in March led me to think it was awfully close to where I was picking up and dropping off Steve, said Zeman. I feel like I forced him to confess to something very heinous. It's murder. When police searched the apartment on Allen Street, they found blood-like residue all around the apartment, a hand saw under the kitchen sink, a baseball bat with blood and hair on it that was tucked behind a dresser, and a garbage bag with a mixture of male and female clothing that were saturated in a red blood-like substance. Koffel is sick with cancer and was being treated at L&M Hospital last week when he was arrested by police. According to the arrest warrant, Koffel told police, "All right man, I did it. I hit her in the head with a baseball bat and it cracked her head open." He also confessed to leaving her body on the floor for 5 days just walking around her like it was nothing. 2 days after that, he moved her to the bed. That night, he came home with a hacksaw and cut her up. He dumped her head and limbs in the dumpster behind my job. None of it could be recovered. Our city burns its trash in a giant incinerator. That thought's gonna stick with me every time I take the trash out back. He couldn't lift the suitcase with the torso, so he left it near the cemetery. His words, "I thought someone would find it and bury it." Koffel had a criminal record going back to the 90s, but police said there was no solid evidence linking him to any of the other recent bodies found across the state. So that pretty much shut down the serial killer theory. But yeah, that's my story. Easily one of the wildest things I've ever been caught up in. I'm sure I forgot a few details, and I'm still processing most of it. Story 2. I worked with a woman who had ableist views and said she would never marry a disabled man because they couldn't give her the life she wanted. Years later, her husband has terminal cancer and she is going to be a widowed single mom. I have volunteered with people in different disabled communities since I was 15. I volunteered with Easter Seals, helping my dad and other volunteers build wheelchair ramps for people in need. Over time, I started volunteering with other nonprofits like Best Buddies, Special Olympics, adaptive sports events. I became friends with many people through those organizations. In college, I majored in social work and got a job at a state agency vocational rehab office for some years. In 2015, I took a job at the Student Services Office at a state college where I also started working on my MSW degree. My job at the college involved assisting disabled students with making sure accommodations were being made for them and advising them on any issues that came up. Due to the nature of my job, I interacted with people worked within different departments at Student Services. People were supportive of each other and it was a very pleasant workplace. I did become friends with several people. One person was Victoria, not her real name. Victoria was younger than me when we started hanging out. I was 30 and she was 25. I got to know her fiancé, now husband Paul, not real name, quite well. Victoria and Paul are an interracial couple. She's black and he's white, and Paul is 20 years older than her and was divorced. She often talked to me about the issues she and Paul faced as an interracial couple with a big age difference. Paul had a well-paying job in finance. They married in spring 2017. In fall 2017, the college we worked at hired a quadriplegic named Chris, not real name, to work in the Student Services Office with me. Chris is a lower-level quadriplegic, meaning he had use of arms and wrists and was able to drive a modified van. Chris is married and had, at the time he started, he and his wife had a 3-year-old daughter. They had a son 2 years ago. Chris's wife Sharon, not real name, would often accompany him to holiday or staff parties. At one party, Victoria told me that she didn't get why a woman like Sharon would settle to marry a disabled guy because it would be a burden in a relationship and she doesn't have the patience to deal with a disability. She also said that she could never marry a man with disability because she knew the kind of lifestyle she wanted. Victoria's views weren't new to me as I had already known others with similar views. I do believe people should be able to choose who they date, marry, cohabitate, etc. with even if their views are discriminatory. A few months later, Victoria took a job at another college in a nearby town. We would meet up for lunch or coffee and sometimes she and Paul would have game or movie nights at their house. I moved out of state in early 2019. I mostly communicated with Victoria mostly through text and phone calls. She and Paul had been doing IVF since 2018, but nothing was working and she eventually told all friends and family that she and Paul were going to need to use donor sperm. Everyone was supportive. She underwent insemination in early 2020 before COVID hit and gave birth to a son in the fall. Due to the pandemic, she kept people informed via Facebook and Instagram. I was genuinely happy for her and Paul. The last time I saw Victoria, Paul, and their son was in late 2022. In 2023, she announced that Paul had colon cancer and he underwent treatments. Last November, she announced via group chats that Paul's cancer is terminal. This past Monday, she announced Paul is now on hospice care. She has posted her feelings anger on group chats and Facebook about how she's not getting the life she dreamed of and wanted. I do have sympathy for her because her son is very young. She also recently said that due to financial issues and medical bills, she will likely have to sell her house and move in with relatives down the line. But there is a part of me that wonders if she sort of cursed herself years ago when she said she wouldn't marry a disabled man because she wouldn't be getting the lifestyle she wanted. Last night, I had a dinner with a friend and I told him about Victoria and Paul and Victoria's ableist views. This friend's grandfather was a Presbyterian minister and he said the Bible verse pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Might apply to Victoria.